Is there a difference between managers and leaders? Some will say yes, some will say no. What do you think? Let's dive into the teaching.
If you want to raise the bar on your growth, whether it's personal or professional, this is the podcast for you. And now, the host, Juan Alvarado.
Okay, so welcome to the Relevant Development Podcast in this Monday Mindset. So I started to think the difference when I used to manage versus leadership when I would lead. And managers kind of stay to make sure that the engine's moving, we're rolling, we're managing things, making sure it manages right. So you're managing the work. Leaders lead people or manage people, if that makes sense. So managers want to make sure that the process is right, where leaders want to make sure that the people are right. I want you to understand this, that managers will lead or treat everyone the same, where leaders treat everybody different. And you're like, Juan, what do you mean? Like, you should treat everybody the same? Because different people are going to be motivated differently. But what leaders need to do is not manage people, but lead everybody's hearts and minds to the same common goal. So I can get from point A to point B, and you can just tell me, hey, I need this done, do it. Somebody else might need understand why. Somebody might ask questions, how? If everyone has different learning abilities, I'm going to treat everybody differently. It's kind of like going back to like students, teachers. If there were kids that are verbal learners, that's not fair to be taught just verbally for those students who are visual learners. And the same thing goes for those employees. I learned something the other day where they were talking about environment. I'm a huge believer in environment, but once I heard this, I was like, ooh, this is changing my thought process. Even though the environment might be the same at work or let's say at home, you can still have two different outcomes. So there's stories probably all over the United States and all over the world of children being raised in an environment. And one ends up being a lawyer, and one ends up going into gangs. One ends up being a drug user, the other one becomes a successful businessman. They were raised by the same mother and father, or just mother or just father. They both had the same environment. So then if environment is key, then how come we have two different people in the same environment grow up two different ways? And what happens is you have twins or you have two kids and you're teaching one how to walk and the other one already knows how to walk. And so you're walk, and you're holding their hands and they're kind of like walking in front of you and yay, you pick him up, I'm so proud of you. Well, the other one sits there and watches. How come you're not proud of me? And so then you're teaching the kid to throw the ball and I want to play too and hold on, it's not your turn. What do you think it's doing to the other kid? I started thinking about this in my own life where my son Levi was more vocal than my son Lincoln, and Levi wanted to play basketball. And so we got him into a city league in basketball, and now he's thriving in basketball. I put all of our kids in t-ball and baseball, and we didn't stick with it. It wasn't a big appeal. But then we have one child that's vocal because he wants to play basketball, and now me, his mom, and his little brothers go and watch Levi play basketball. So we're cheering, yeah, go Levi, go, yeah, we're so proud of you. What does that look like over here with the other two children? They're growing up in the same environment, but we're creating three different characters for boys. And so I started to invest a little bit more time into the other boys, and that's the concept behind things, is like, we have the same environment. How come they're not all confident and, thriving in sports? Well, we got behind one and not the other ones. And I'm not saying that that was purposeful, but the other kids didn't say like they wanted to do anything. You want to try this? And no. And now they're at the age where they're like, I want to try everything. Did I mess up? I don't think I necessarily messed up. But if I did, I'm not going to say it's too late, but I can be intentional now. And so we're working with Levi for basketball, Lincoln for football, and then Jackson for football as well. And then next season, the next time it's going to be track for Levi and Lincoln. And we have trainers for both of them. And so we're being intentional, and I'm working with each son. Like I spend certain time with one, certain time with another one, and certain time with another one. But I have to balance myself out. When we talk about work, when we talk about a boss, when we talk about environment, managers will manage everybody the same. Leaders will lead everybody a bit differently based on their needs, wants, and desires when it comes to moving up. Managers will point out weaknesses where leaders will pull up and elevate strengths. So there's still a difference between the two. Leaders, or people that are managers or in management positions, your calling is to be a leader for your staff. So our jobs as leaders is to grow and highlight their strengths so their weaknesses are irrelevant. Where somebody is weak, I'm going to have another staff that is strong in that area. And so I have to be cognizant and intentional to who my staff are and what their strengths are. Highlight and elevate their strengths so much so their weaknesses are irrelevant. You're either preparing your team or you're repairing your team. So this week, a little bit longer of a Mindset Monday, but I want you to think, am I preparing my staff or am I going to have to repair my staff? You pay for it now, or are you going to end up paying for it later? Am I a manager? Do I want to manage the product and the policy, or do I want to lead the people? Do I want to manage problems, or do I want to lead and elevate successes? There's a difference between the two. I'll send it back to you. Do you manage yourself? Do you manage your family? Do you manage people at work? Or do you lead yourself, lead your family, and lead the people at work? I can almost guarantee you that the people that you're working with want to see you as their leader, not as a manager. Put people first. Think about that as you head to work for this week. Thank you so much for joining me today. Continue to raise that bar so you can continuously pull yourself up to that next level. But you can't get to the next level unless you raise that bar. We will see you on the next episode.